So, Lucy, can you tell me a bit about the difference between panels? In terms of, I know in my own research, there's different costs, there's different longevity, repair requirements are different in terms of the actual lifespan of the panels. It seems that most of them are being made in China these days. What do we need to know about the panel selection itself to make sure that we're getting the most efficiency, the most efficient sort of basically power sucking out of the sun as much as we can?
Yeah. So, as you said, most of them are made in China. We do get questions from people about, I want German made or Austrian made. There aren't any currently made in Europe. Some components are made in Europe and they're patented in Europe, but most of them are actually put together overseas in Southeast Asia. There are a couple of American companies now as well, but they are mostly made in China. But of course, as with anything, you get what you pay for, and there is a difference. So there's a couple of things. One is that the panels haven't changed very much. They're about just under a meter wide and about 1.6 meters tall. And they haven't changed much in the last 30 years except the wattage. So we used to see, even as recently as sort of 7 years ago, most panels were 170 watts. Then as they kind of improved the technology, they got to about 220. And now most kind of standard panels are 270 watts. And you can get panels that are 360 watts. So again, if you had a really small roof space and you wanted to make sure you could get maximum amount per panel, you might want to pay a premium to get those panels. And as research and development and the market changes, probably within a few years, the 360 watt panels will become standard. But at the moment, it's 270. And you might find that companies are trying to get rid of old stock of say 220 watt panels. Doesn't mean that they're poor quality. And if you've got room to put an extra couple of panels, you're still going to have the same amount of generation. The other thing is the performance output warranty. So it's industry standard for panels to be warranted for 25 years. And that means that they will still be operational at 25 years, but there will be a drop in percentage. And so the standard rate is a 1% degradation per year. So even at 25 years, they should still be operating at 75% efficiency. A lot of the new panels actually degrade a lot slower than that, less than 0.5% per year. So they should still be, the ones post 2000, allegedly, will still be operating at 92% efficiency after 20 years. So that's pretty good. And that's another development that's changed. And that's where you might see the difference between the cheapest chip systems and the more expensive systems panels. The cheaper ones might be operating at 70% at 25 years. The more expensive ones might be operating at 90% at 20 years. So that's where it's worth reading the fine print. The other thing is, of course, the inverter. So as I said, the inverter is the brains. So that's where you really want to make sure you're getting a good quality system. And again, looking at the warranties and making sure that there's no fine print that says, it's going to explode after 10 years. But the industry standard is 5 years, and many suppliers will offer a 5-year additional, so 10-year warranty. But some of them will have conditions on that, such as you have to get it serviced by them every year for $500 or something. So, and that's not worth it. So as with all our major appliances, it's probably a good idea to have it serviced every couple of years. However, as many of us don't do that, there are ways to make sure the inverter is working properly without getting someone out. If you got someone out, they'd probably take the casing off and just make sure there was no dust inside. But the other thing they do is they just check it. So, and you can do this yourself. On our website, on the Our Energy Future website, there is actually a PDF that you can download, and then you take it out to your inverter and you look at the numbers and do some calculations, and you can tell if it's working efficiently as you would expect it to. So that's tool number one. A lot of the new inverters actually have apps that go with your phone that you can check them. You can be at work and be very smug about how much power you're generating back home. So there's lots of ways to know the system is still running efficiently. But yeah, checking the panels, checking the performance output warranty and reading the fine print, and checking the warranties on the inverters and making sure there's no conditions to those warranties.
That's fantastic. So that performance output warranty on the panels, it should tell you what that drop-off percentage expectation is over that period of time, should it? Okay.
It should, and that's a question to ask if it doesn't.
Okay, all right. And yeah, the research that I've done, the inverter seems to be the main thing in terms of making sure that that's where you spend, actually buy quality, because like you say, it is the brains that's sort of maximizing the potential transfer of power from the panels to your system. So So I think that that's a great way for us to be able to check that. And I'll pop a link in the blog for that PDF that you mentioned, so that the UN community can check that out as well. So
yeah,
I find though that most installers, they're just telling you, this is a 5 kilowatt system. This is it's like they sell you the system rather than saying to you, okay, well, it's this many panels at this amount per panel, this amount of output per panel. So how do homeowners, I suppose, start that conversation of, hey, mate, you might be a 5 kilowatt system, but I've only got a west facing area of roof that's this big that, do you recommend that homeowners wrap their head around the science of this a bit and sort of think about how many panels sizes they might need based on their roof and what that might mean in terms of their inverter and their panel choice? Or do you think it's just in the case of finding decent installers and knowing those kinds of questions to ask about warranties and, panel output and those types of things?
Well, it's a bit of both. So as I said, I'm a bit of a nerd and I like reading up on things. So if you like to engage in data and, if you're the kind of person that does a bit of research before you make a major purchase, then by all means get engaged. And that's also where you can start analyzing your own behavior in the home, figuring out where you're using, what your highest energy users are in your home. And you can make sure you're going to maximize your savings. However, having said all that, I just want to see solar on as many roofs as possible. So if someone wants to spend the money and is pretty comfortable with the supplier, then just go ahead and do it, because it's worth it. And the other thing is, from an environmental perspective, which of course that's what our organisation, our goal is, emissions reductions. So of course energy efficiency is number one, but putting more renewables into the grid. So not just generating renewable energy for you to use in your home. If you don't use it, it will get used. And it does mean that there's more renewables out there. So from an environmental perspective, if you want to get solar, then it's definitely a win. In terms of saving money, that's where you probably do want to do a bit more research and actually make some calculations, get a bit of an understanding, get your kids involved. Because I have a colleague who has teenage daughters, and he says that their hair dryers and hair straighteners use loads of electricity.
Yeah, you need to incentivize that energy reduction, don't you?
Yeah.
I feel like that we're on tank water, and just trying to incentivize our kids to not have these really long showers is a big exercise. So I can see the same thing translating with energy use generally in the home as well. So